This is Midjourney Studio, formerly known as Promptcraft Live. Promptcraft Live was what we called it when it was sort of a cryptic podcast thing. And we decided that, people probably aren't entirely sure what um, Promptcraft Live means or what it does. So our idea this year is to go ahead and call it a studio. If you know what if you know what about university life, then a studio is where somebody comes and shares a bunch of stuff, and everyone else shares a bunch of stuff, and you walk around and look at people's stuff and work on stuff, and you know it's a pretty good word, I thought. It
Mhm.
definitely sounds a little more like a deep dive. It sounds a little more grad school, so a little more like advanced user style. Um, it sounds like you don't know what's going to happen, which is important to this event. Excuse me. So I'm hoping that it'll work out. Um, by and large, this is the advanced users group for our Midjourney community. That doesn't mean that you have to be an advanced user to be here or to benefit. Um, but it is it's the sort of place where we might not slow down and explain basics unless you make noise. What does that mean? So bang some pots and pans if we talk about things. Welcome, Ari. So the first thing I want to do here in Midjourney Studio is ask if there is anyone with basically a support issue, a prompt problem or project that they're puzzling over, that they need some help, or would like to see a demonstration, or if they need a refresher or tutorial, or just have some Q&A questions. I'd like to open with that. If you do not have any such contribution or question or whatever, then just type NQ, no questions, in local chats, just so I can tell the difference between no questions and actually not having heard, or silence or whatever. It's a great question, Collect. How do we enable V8? We are going to talk sort of about V8 today. Um, and it's too bad that some of our usual suspects aren't here, because they would love it. Okay, so thanks, you guys. That really helps me track. So the first thing I'm going to show you then, if we have no questions, is...
One question.
Oh, we have a question?
I asked, I asked for a guy holding a rose in their teeth, and this is what I got.
Ah! Well, he has the expression on his face that makes me think that that is what happened.
Uh-huh.
Dang, that's hard to look at.
Hmm. But I think it's not easy to do that. Get a rose in someone's teeth, like a flamenco.
Oh, well, it's something we should test once we have our hands on what.
Yes. Yeah, I'll wait a little while for that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I clearly closed the... No, I didn't. Okay. Let's say I closed the window. Okay. So what you see in front of you is the prompting for beginners class. If you're watching my screen, then you should see in this area over here a slide. And I think what we can safely say about V8 is that, and because this is true um, of every release of Midjourney, unmuting people while I'm talking here, of every release of Midjourney, is that there's a leap forward in attention and memory and efficiency, right? So, hi, Gally. So you might remember back in V3, we were lucky to get anything coherent. And then V4, we started to get coherence, but we could only get one subject. And then, by V6, we could start kind of contriving to get two subjects that weren't completely blended. V7, we started feeling pretty good about getting unblended subjects, but maybe not more than three or four or five, depending if you uh, could really, follow some good prompting discipline with that. And so, what is the what if V7, if we can just guess that V7 is going to also show either a small step or an explosive step forward in attention, memory and attention, um, what changes about the way we prompt? So what I did is I brought this slide deck forward because it is what we tell people about how to prompt in V7. Notice I've already changed the word to V8 here, right? Nothing on this slide is written for V8. But that's what I want us to think about. So would it still be true if Midjourney has exponentially better, say, or even modestly better memory and attention and efficiency, would it still be true that if it's not controlled with the prompt, Midjourney will make it up? This is an easy one. Just throw a yes or a no.
Yes. It will always
It
make
will
up
always
not
make
there.
stuff up.
It's gonna go
Always.
towards the archetype or whatever
Yeah.
the community aesthetic is.
Or the bias, the P code, yeah.
Well, collect. I don't see how it could not make it up. You mean it could do nothing?
Just
I
give you
mean,
exactly what you asked for.
like if
Well,
you
it's gonna do
say
its best based on the context of what you're asking it.
a birthday cake
Or
with no candles, do you think it would just make a birthday cake and with just little flames above, no candles?
no, I'm sure it's gonna have more intelligence than that.
Why?
To
Why would
just
you be sure?
exclude well, then that would be dumb.
The archetype of
Ladies and
candles is the
gentlemen,
flame.
that would be dumb. You heard it here
Yes.
first.
Yeah.
Eugene likes to give
Why
blank
would it be
backgrounds.
that? Why would it work that way? It wouldn't make any sense.
Well, it might have identified the flame, the flame, as the token flame, and the horizontal wax bit as the quote candle. And if you say no candle, it doesn't hear you say no flame.
Well,
The archetype of the
okay,
candle is
but
the flame.
let's hope that it would have enough intelligence to make the connection.
There's no
between the two
intelligence in
and
Midjourney. What do you mean by intelligence?
the ability to make that connection between the
To make the
candle and the
connection,
flame, and
that
to remove
you would
it.
hope that the correlation that in the training was strong enough to not treat candle as a separate object than flame.
Yeah, but how many images has it seen that when there was a flame, there was no candle?
But if it's listening, I mean, I'm just taking devil's advocate view here. Is it conceivable that it will go back through when it's conditioning? You said no candles. So it goes through and it's conditioning your image and it's checking. Let me check. I'm going to look at this pixel and compared to the prompted, this pixel compared to the prompted, this pixel compared to the prompt. And every time it hits a pixel of that vertical column of wax, it's going to go, says no candles, delete that pixel. And so as it conditions, it'll slowly pass through like a printer head and delete and delete the pixels that are correspondent to candle, because you said no candle. And therefore you end up with a birthday cake with hovering flames. I mean, I'm just
Well, of course,
saying.
you could have a no lit candle, or like,
Right.
or
You'd have to cover it in the prompt, because per the slide, if it's not controlled with the prompt, Midjourney makes it up. Now, Collect has said Niji likes to give blank backgrounds. I don't see how that contradicts the statement that Midjourney will make it up. It made up a blank background. You didn't say anything. So it's just like, boop. With just flames and no candles, it would be pretty sick.
Are you trying to prepare us for something?
I am.
Talk about?
I'm just saying that it looks like this remains true.
Be sure to not ask for no candles on your cake, otherwise you might get floating flame.
Who knows? Invisible candle. I mean, all I'm saying is that as we go through our normal prompting rituals, I mean guidelines. Sorry, we're not a cult. Our normal prompting things that we've all kind of, as advanced users, many of us have just internalized these things. We don't think of them as like, I know the guidelines. Yes. Monocle. We're not really doing that. All we're doing is we've sort of just become fluent. Not all of us can articulate what those guidelines are, but this is one of, allow me, this is one of them, right? If it's not controlled with the prompt, Midjourney makes it up. I can't see how that changes in V8. I mean, if the only thing I know about V8 is that it's going to do diffusion better, it doesn't change the rule that diffusion makes stuff up if you don't specify it in the prompt, because we know that's how a diffusion works. I guess it will make things up in the sense that there will be pixels. Yes. In the sense that there will be pixels that you didn't say what those pixels are going to be. You didn't say, a plain black background. It came up with plain background. You didn't say, forest clearing. It came up with forest clearing. Blah, blah. What is this? I see smoke. I see candle. I see flame. What is this an example of?
I can see the candle.
I can see the candle. No, there's definitely a candle there. You must have your oh, okay. Well, I mean, except for the fact that the candle's visible, it's perfect.
Yeah.
It's possible that the brightness on his screen is such that he can't
I don't
see
see
that.
it. No, it just
I
looks
don't
like
see it
smoke.
either.
You guys
Yeah,
can see
smoke.
that?
You can't see the
I
candle?
see the
I can
I
see
see the
candle.
vague shape. I see the vague shape of a candle.
Which is what candles are, really.
With-
You ready?
with the smoke.
There's no wax in that glass.
Yeah. It's just wisps of smoke.
Okay. Well, Wendy, I'm with you. My brain is like, there is a black candle in that.
The light is
really?
shining around the rim of it, isn't it?
Yeah. Looks
click on the
totally
image?
solid. Yeah, even
I have
big. It looks even more
Yeah.
like a candle.
Yeah.
But there's
that's weird.
nothing reflecting off the candle.
Maybe this is like that. Is it gold or blue? Is this?
Well,
is
okay,
this
Maybe, yeah.
I see what you guys are saying. If I look at the very top where when it's small, it looks like a rim. If I get close enough with my zoom, I can see that it doesn't necessarily look like reflection on wax. It could arguably be wispy lines.
Looks like the
I'm with you.
smoke's masking it.
Yeah, I 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Collect
It's
says,
a
shouldn't we
suggestion.
distinguish it coming up with a blank background and coming up with a background with details that we're not prompted for? What? Wait, I got to read that again. Should we not distinguish it? Shouldn't we distinguish it coming up with a blank background? Oh, shouldn't we distinguish between coming up with a blank background and coming up with a background with details that we're not prompted for? I don't distinguish between that, because they're both examples of details that we're not prompted for.
Yeah.
But you know me, Collect. If you give me a minute, I can come up with the other. I was in law school. I can come up with the argument for the other side too. I wasn't in law school. I was pre-law. It's different. Okay, hold on. Did someone say something on YouTube, or did I just hallucinate that? I hallucinated. Okay. So I would say, well, I don't have to change the slide. I'm going to go to the next slide. If the prompt exceeds the time allotted to the job, Midjourney becomes incoherent, blends, and/or drops details. Well, we still pay by the minute. So what do you guys think? Are jobs still limited on Midjourney servers? Everything is limited, says Heembo. Do you think that even if V8 is super freaking efficient, we could still exceed the time allotted to the job?
Exceed the time allotted to the job. I'm so confused. What?
I mean,
How can you exceed? So if you have 2 minutes to do it and that's
I
it,
mean, I see what you're saying. Yeah, you're right. What I mean to say is, could what we ask for take more time than what we've been given? And so it just gets aborted.
Right, it cuts off. Right,
we run out of time. We run out of time. Will we still, imagining that V7? I mean, excuse me, the V8 is better than V7, which is, we've been told in office hours that V8 is better than V7. Do you think we can just stop worrying about this?
Not yet. Maybe in future version, but or maybe it'll come to the point where you don't notice.
It could.
Yeah, not really.
Yeah, Collect is coming heavy down on nope. If you contrive to create a prompt that exceeds the time allotted to the job, then you will still see the problems Diffusion has when that occurs.
Yeah.
If you can come up with that prompt, you will have this problem.
Yeah. The day I have to stop pushing, like Collect says, no, never, and keep pushing. The day I have to stop pushing, I'll probably give up and go and look for another challenge in life.
So, this is interesting. Right now, we have a lot of our guidelines, either the ones that we can articulate or the ones that we've internalized, are all about getting a sense of what we can do in that time before it cuts us off. So we're like, okay, so for example, we said earlier, version 7 can handle like 4 compositional subjects before it starts losing the plot, and those so 4 is about is what we mean is we start running out of time. We get cut off. 5, we get cut off between 3 and 5. There, I'll just make it a window. Depending on how clever you are with your prompting, you can get as many as 5, and then you definitely run out of time. What will that new number be? Because it's not going to change if the prompt, if what we ask for in the prompt takes more time than we've got. This problem is likely to still occur. I can't see why not, unless they introduce something very cool. But we'll have to get a new sense of what we can get done in that time.
The time allotted is like baked in, right? Like you can't.
Yeah, it's not going to change. The only thing that can change is
all I'm wondering is are there any versions like that somebody has that could spend more time? Like, does David have a version that spends more time?
Yeah, he can. Of course he can. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Like, like everybody has the same iPhone. Like, even Steve Jobs had the same iPhone as everyone else. There just wasn't a better iPhone.
They can give obviously more allotted time and look at the cost and weigh all that up. That's all part of the system.
Right.
And and certain devs and people that they have a command structure where they can cut it. They use the same model or a different model on a different test board or something, and that has different settings and they can change it. They could take off moderation and do bits and bobs like that, and they can also a lot more time if they wish to see. But that's the dev side of things.
Can somebody who has a version of it on their home computer set it to spend more time?
Absolutely, and we have the Q flag.
Oh wow!
Why would
you have a Q flap? What's a Q flap?
What?
Quality?
Quality
Did you
parameter?
say, I thought you said Q flap. I was like, what's...
We're not going to talk about your Q flap stuff.
Yeah.
Stop bringing it up.
Yeah.
Put it away.
Right, okay.
Okay. So yeah, so I think I don't have to change the slide. I think each prompt continues to be a limited job on Midjourney servers. And at some point, we'll still be concerned with optimization to help prompts perform better. But we don't know when we're going to have to start optimizing and when we can just hit the keyboard with our elbows and get what we want. I don't know.
Look at it in a stance.
Currently, I use, not to mention another competitor, but Banana, they accept like over 3,000 characters in the prompts and will maintain such a high accuracy, like detail in that prompt.
Well,
lighting effects,
what's
pose,
weird is
clothing
that
details,
so far,
character details.
even though Midjourney is always like a year behind these things, it always is a leap ahead of whatever's current when it gets released. So that's
but you're talking about like having limits, and I was thinking, like, why have limits?
What do you mean why have limits? Otherwise they'll just charge you endlessly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because of our cost model, our pricing model.
Yeah. Midjourney's making money, all the others aren't, right?
Well, I don't know.
With imagery and video? No.
I hope that it's not, sure, I understand there's, having limits is, makes sense for the cost, to keep costs down, but I just hope that it's not that. I hope it's a high limit.
Like,
the higher the better.
We have this classic V7 prompt, which I will put. So we can count the details in this one. A blue-eyed man, that's 2. Green sweater, stands, stormy beach, purple wine, okay. Sand, I'm counting on my fingers, that's 9. Holding, okay. 10. Fat, 11. Black, cat, beneath it's part of the archetype of a black umbrella. 15. Giant, 16. Blue bird, glides, okay, whatever birds glide, I'm not going to count that one. Gray blue sky, archetypal, streaked with orange clouds, okay. Orange. Okay, I'm at 22. Wind, man's hair, 25. Whoa! 25. Distant, 30. That's about 40 details.
Do you think that Midjourney can accept this prompt here that I shared in the chat?
Yes, it can.
Of course it can.
If you put it in chat mode.
No, not even then.
Yes, be in conversation.
You can just
conversation mode.
Paste it in exactly as it is.
It crashes because it's got too many. It's got the annotation squiggles. It don't work. It crashes it.
Well, it won't work.
Oh, because of the special punctuation.
If you paste it into conversation mode,
it works.
It will accept it. Yeah.
It's kind of spectacular too, isn't it? Really good when it works.
Well,
when it works.
Understood. Midjourney itself has no information about the JSON structure that you've given here. It will discard that, and it'll just use the words that it knows.
I'm just saying that it will accept it. Is what I'm. Saying.
Oh, absolutely. It gives you 25 jobs because of the parameters.
No, Himbo, you're missing what we're saying is you need to use it in conversation mode only. It's gonna mess up otherwise.
Yeah.
We'll test
okay, so let's try the next one. Do you think this will still be true in V8, given that V8 is supposed to be an improvement? If the prompt contains chaotic tokens, you lose control of the canvas.
Yeah, absolutely. Again,
so,
of course.
Jargon, technical specifications, fidelity language, like if you say, a super, hyper, ultra realistic bird, is that going to give you a better result than bird?
Maybe this time, because it has. Maybe because it's the language, because the architecture's changed, hasn't it? It's intelligent, so it might understand that it might want. It's not going to change 8K, is it, or high res? You know, the particular words like that. But if you're asking for it, yeah, it might most certainly, instead of giving you a bit of a scraggy looking bird, because the thing is, sometimes birds in the wild do look a bit scruffy, don't they? You know, they're not always that well preened. You know, when they're at the end of their lives or going through a tough time. But Midjourney doesn't pick those ones, does he? But I'm finding with a lot of the V8 ranking, I'm seeing that kind of stuff happening. Those little attentions to the detail that make life real. I'm seeing lots of that in the background. Lots of that's happening when you're seeing somebody asking for a parrot. I've run that parrot in all four different versions, in loads of different versions, and the V8 version I'm looking at, that parrot's got feathers astray. You know, there's a bit of things going wrong here, this and that. So by maybe asking it to be pristine or to be this, that, you're going to get the perfect looking, like, sort of photoshopped or stock photo parrot. Whereas maybe you won't get that necessarily unless you're asking for it. Because I'm seeing real life shit going on with things like, like dogs with like little bits of they're not all lovely sheen and well brushed. There's a little bit of a tethering going on and stuff, and I'm loving it. I'm loving that because it's not hiding that stuff. I'm seeing, so yeah, I think that will make a difference in the new V8. I'd actually say absolutely.
I think if you think about how diffusion works, and you're talking about, let's talk about the prompt super hyper realistic bird. In other words, I'm using fidelity. I'm trying to increase the fidelity of realism by modifying it by saying it's super and hyper and very realistic. If I say a very red bird versus a red bird, what is very going to do?
Okay. Right.
Do you think V8 will have a new relationship to fidelity terms?
No.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Versus
very bird.
Yeah.
Right, because it's still going to say, oh, you've given me the token very. Let me check my training for what is correspondent to the word very. I am looking this up. I see random shit is correspondent to the word very. And so I'm going to do that random thing that is correspondent to the word very, which appears, in association with all kinds of art and photography.
Yeah.
And I'm going to apply that to red because that's what it's closest to. And so
so hyperrealistic's still going to give us hyperrealism like it always has done, No?
Hyperrealism is well, hyperrealism, since it is an art term, might very well give us the art, but super, very, hyper, ultra, blah 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 is likely to not, because those are not tokens that do anything.
So you don't think it's likely to give us a cleaner parrot than by putting in a parrot we get a lovely clean shiny parrot right now?
I can't tell you whether or not it will, but I can speculate based on how diffusion works that it won't.
So
unless they're doing something other than diffusion to help it along, how could it?
If you think about how people tag pictures, if they're using that word very, like very red or very green, it probably means that it's larger blocks of color. So that might actually give you larger blocks of color. Or does that make sense?
Yeah, so that's a great thinking. I'm going to try it over here.
Yeah. If you say very red, it'll be predominantly.
You just have to think about what people think about when they look at
That's
pictures.
Exactly right. Okay, so let's look at that was fidelity language technical specifications. I think it would actually, if it's even more adherent, then we're going to see jargon and technical specifications drag things the wrong direction faster and more efficiently. Because before we've been like, oh, we'll say HDR, and maybe it'll help, but now if we're super ultra have a lot of attention to pay to your use of HDR, and we treat it as terribly important, and we're really going to do whatever is correlated to HDR, God knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, you're probably going to get like a cassette in the background with HDR on
I
it,
don't
or
know,
a camera, a little camera on the side with HDR on it or something. Because this is where it's really where you see it, isn't it? Stamped on those things, or a little screen somewhere. I can imagine if it's getting that attention to detail. Oh, that'd be a nightmare, wouldn't it? But I guess
like
you'd
nothing would be nothing would have depth of field if it was super.
Well, unless it starts photo stacking, yeah, which is what it did with 5.1, isn't it? 5 started to photo stack like a mother, like a lot. I mean,
yeah. Given how diffusion works, I don't see how slightly red bird and extremely red bird would
really
be different.
I thought a slightly red parrot would be just like, you'd have red and bits of other colours in it.
Yeah.
An extremely red one would be a completely red parrot.
Or more saturated.
You'd hope so.
I imagine I think that if it sees extremely red, and it's a 3-word prompt, so it's going to see extremely red and bird. It's going to see extremely red and red bird. So I think extremely red, that grouping of tokens might do something. But in both cases, slightly red bird and extremely red bird is not an interrupted pair of tokens. So I think the bird itself, red bird, as an uninterrupted pair of tokens would produce the same bird. But what might change is slightly red and extremely red, so maybe the background would change. You see what I'm saying? Because unless you said bird, extremely red, and then it could maybe. I'm trying it. I can't show you, but
Oh, of course you can. What do you mean you can't show us? Oh, you
no.
Okay, yeah, I see. Yeah.
And she can't reveal the result either. So
nope.
Yeah.
But I can speak to you about what we know from office hours, and and what we know about diffusion.
Yeah. Oh, well, even in Google search, if I put extremely red parrot and red parrot, I pretty much get the same thing.
They're pretty much the same thing, yeah.
Yeah, even in Google, yeah. Yeah.
I think word order might matter though, but because I mean it's always mattered, right? Because the closer tokens are together, the more influence they have on each other. So a bird very red separates bird from red more than a very red bird, which has no separation between red and bird. That matters in all versions of Midjourney. It hasn't mattered very, very much in early versions because we've never had enough compute or whatever. The prompting hasn't been effective enough for such a nuance to really make or break us. But I think what's interesting is as everywhere for all LLMs, for all Gen AI, as they become more efficient and more effective and have more attention and more memory, it doesn't always help us. Sometimes it means that when we make a mistake, that mistake is now obeyed. Right? So our sort of, so I don't know what's going to happen, whether what's going to happen to sort of lazier prompting. Is that gonna be as satisfying? In a
So.
I don't know.
Yeah. Midjourney will just make up the beauty of the rest, won't it? As it always has done, right?
It always
I'm
has
putting
done.
I'm putting a street wall and then just basically getting. I'm not using V8, of course, but I'm looking at street wall. I'm actually seeing V8. How I'm doing it is I haven't got V8, but what I'm doing is I'm looking at the images from ranking. I'm grabbing it, looking at really good ones, and then go right, okay, and then I'm prompting it in the others and go right, okay. what's different here? What's it doing? Right, it's adding so much more detail. It's adding this and that without asking for it. It's just asking for a street wall, and but all of a sudden the wall's got chips in, cracks in, this, that, it's got all this. And I'm like, right, you're going to have to say, I want a newly built wall with no defects in. It feels like I'm always going to have to say, because this is just too like real life right now. That's a dirty wall. I need it to be a bit cleaner than that, for my picture.
Right.
Do you see? So I think if you just, the less you give it, it's going to add all those extra details. You're going to have to calm it down. I think, slow it down,
maybe,
and dial it in. Dial it in. That's the word.
Yeah. Dial it in. Dial it in. So I'm just skipping back, alt-tabbing over here to Himbo, saying, what about commas? Is there a difference? And my favorite example of this, and Himbo's seen it before, is a panda eats, shoots, and leaves. So even though if I take out the commas, a panda eats, shoots, and leaves, he's just eating bamboo, which is what it says. But that presence of the comma separating the word shoots changes the correlations, and the panda has a gun. So that's the difference between commas in version 7. And my question would be, how do we feel about version the next version? If the next version is supposed to be like more attention, does that mean more attention will be paid to such things as commas, or more attention will be paid to the fact that it contains eats, shoots, and leaves, and there are and you know what I mean? Like, and it's not going to care so much about the commas, because the commas are really just benign noise.
Yeah. David did say it would text it. He said it's going to prompt. You obviously know you're able to prompt with it, but he said it prompts very differently to V7. So I'm like, oh, okay. What? Oh, okay. It's like, let's stick to grammar, shall we? The grammar thing works really quite well with us. With
David doesn't know how to prompt
English
V7. Says Colette.
Yeah.
Well, I so far we haven't found really any change in our prompting habits, just a change in maybe what happens when we prompt with that habit. Like we're still pretty sure that fidelity language is not a go. Technical specifications and jargon might take us down. It already takes us to a chaotic place, and maybe it'll be even more chaotic because it's even going to pay me even more attention. What about literary writing?
Okay.
Do you need an example of literary writing?
Yeah, it's in like
it's the like one where do you remember? Well, hold on. Can I lift this up and get it? No, look, my slide is stuck, or there's no notes. Okay, so a literary writing would be like, she wandered into the cafe feeling lonely and forlorn on that empty, rainy afternoon, but she knew she would meet Harry here as she had before for many months. There he was, sitting with his rain-soaked fedora on the Formica counter while he picked desultorily at his eggs with, the tines of his fork. Like if I...
David said that he's going to have he's got better understanding now, and therefore I think, well, isn't that part of isn't the evolution of it where it will start to understand those kind of things better in time?
I would argue that the word understanding is not a helpful concept when learning to prompt a V8. I would say it. I understand that he uses that word.
Yeah.
And I don't think adherence is understanding. He most got it. I don't think adherence is understanding. I think adherence is an algorithmic method by which to check whether by some set of rules the resulting image can be said to be obedient to the prompt. And to a non-technical person who is not trying to do anything fancy with Midjourney, that might feel passingly like understanding. Oh, it understood what I meant, But to those of us here in this user group, I'm not sure I'm not sure that it's a helpful concept. I do see a context in which that would be an okay thing to say. But in particular for us in this room, I wonder if we might be circumspect about choosing this way of thinking. I don't, because then if Midjourney understands, then I should be able to say, I want her to have frizzy hair, but not too frizzy. Right? But it doesn't. It's just it doesn't actually quote understand the way an LLM understands. And I would argue that the LLM probably doesn't really understand the way we think it does either, but it's way harder to tell.
So how do you get an LLM, even an advanced one, to understand a diffusion model then, and how it's got to know the same tricks we do, I guess.
Yep.
Right.
The reason why it's harder to tell that LLMs don't understand, I mean, it's very well disguised because the LLMs function in language. Language is how we prove understanding. So if you query an LLM, it uses language to, and it's just a rabbit hole. And until we learn more about the brain, it's hard. It's very hard to make a solid argument from certain perspectives that LLMs do or don't think, or do or don't understand, or do or don't, because if we apply brain rules, apply the same rules to ourselves, there's some argument. Like, do you have to? Some people will say, well, the difference is it might be mechanically the same, but a meat brain is subjected to different chemicals and impulses and and I'm like, yeah, but what if you simulate that for the LLM? Then it gets even closer. So there's this ever chasing this ever spiraling catch-22 of neurocognitive science and philosophy and LLMs, and they're constantly at war with each other, trying to determine what ineffable thing is thinking and understanding. But with Midjourney, we don't have to worry about that. Because it doesn't do any language stuff, at least right now. I mean, there's no indication from office hours that V8 is suddenly going to start doing that. I'm calling myself a meat brain.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay, so literary writing then, maybe it'll be fine. Right now why don't we like literary writing right now? It's not because Midjourney starts eating popcorn and reading your prompt and getting excited about the next page or something. It's because we have such a limited amount of time and attention in that job. We don't want to waste it on all of it's inefficient. We don't want to waste it on, behold, upon the stone seat she sat, when we can say she sat on a stone bed, because behold wastes a precious moment and we know it doesn't add anything. But what if V8, if it's going to be so much better at this, maybe behold doesn't waste behold wastes a negligible amount of time. Like, maybe V8 will say, I don't know, you can say, behold, I don't care. I have plenty of time to discard that and move on to the next token. And so we won't be punished so much if we, write purple prose, or, I mean, I'm guessing. I actually don't know. I haven't tested it. But it follows logically. You can hear me being very careful because I'm not trying to tell you anything about actual V8. What I'm trying to say is that when you extrapolate that V7 had a certain level of efficiency, a certain level of attention, and you extrapolate from that, what if we got more efficiency and more attention? part of me thinks that tokens that do something are going to lead you astray if they're the wrong token. And if tokens do nothing, then it makes less never mind that you've put them in there because we have so much better use of our time. Was that clear? I spoke all over the place just then.
Clear to me.
Yeah. And
okay.
Me, so yeah.
Okay. Would one of you say it back to me in a way that somebody who got confused by my way of speaking could understand?
No.
Okay. I was
I was like, blimey. I was like,
no.
I wasn't taking notes. I was just listening.
I know. I understand. So I'm going to try it one more time. So two things might happen if we take the premise of improvement in V8. First of all, tokens that do stuff are really going to do stuff. Right? So if you say red, it's not going to get lost as easily because we're going to have the time and attention and efficiency to make sure that red is taken care of. If I say ultra hyper realistic, whatever, trending on ArtStation, Octane render, whatever jargony stuff, and that stuff does anything, it's not going to be missed because every time you improve the model, stuff that does stuff really does stuff. So it's possible that troublesome tokens will really be troublesome. But it's also possible that tokens that don't do you any harm at all, benign tokens like Behold, or Suddenly, or something like that they don't really produce, they don't have any visual correlation, so they're not really changing your image. You could probably load up your prompt with those and not worry about it, because not see the rest of your prompt suffer, because we have enough time. Midjourney has enough time and attention, in theory, now to say, all right, that's fine. I have time to put that aside, to discard it. So that's my theory.
Yeah.
That's my theory if we extrapolate based on what was said in office hours. And let me catch up on local chat here. Damage cases on the big question about synthetic thinking. Oh, that's a really pretty idea. That would make a great prompt, damage case. Every cosplayer dreams of actually becoming the thing someday. Okay, so that takes care of this slide, I think. There are some changes to this slide, I suppose. In the last area, or I mean, I just think though there could be more harm and less harm.
Yeah. Midjourney can Midjourney not be trained to ignore the rubbish, the HD, the 4K, knowing that 4K does nothing, but it does do something, of course, yeah. But knowing that it's
you can't train it to ignore words. I mean, there's sort of this freedom of expression thing that if you write it in the prompt, you believe that that we're not going to censor you. You're allowed to scream 4K as loud as you like. We don't have to moderate 4K, so we're not gonna.
Okay, so 4K in a bikini. 4K.
Right. Okay, so what did we have next? There's no right way to prompt. This is the slide that I leave in here to bother collect.
Yeah.
Nice save with the sculpting slide.
See.
What? Why? Oh. Skip it. Okay. Oh, because
collect.
Collect doesn't like the sculpting slide either. The terrible metaphor. Terrible metaphor.
No.
We can argue about it all day.
I thought you meant you were saving yourself by quickly flicking off that one.
Oh,
to the
because
sculpting
it
one.
had something. It had something secret on it or something. No, there's no secrets in this. I wouldn't put this up at all if there was any risk of anything. So
the one you said that Collect hates, you said, I'll hate this one, and then you quickly slid over to the other slide. You said, nice save, because you got rid of the one that you got there to rotate.
Got it.
Yeah. Right.
So if you're trying to craft a specific image, there are ways to troubleshoot prompts when they aren't working. I think this stays true. I know. That's what I was trying to tell people, is that Collect hates this slide. Because there are two perspectives to take on what is quote right. One way to take a right prompt, a correct prompt, is saying, well, is it according to how diffusion functions and operates? Are you prompting with that effectiveness, those operational values in mind? I know how diffusion works, therefore my prompt is written a certain way. But another way to talk about the right or correct prompt is, did it give you what you want? It's just the human check. So it could be that you hit the keyboard with your elbows, or your cat walked across it or something, but you got this picture that you love. Was that prompt, quote, wrong? Not according to this perspective. According to the perspective that says, look, you're happy. It wasn't, I know, Collect. You're happy with it, so you're fine, you're good. Now, that's the perspective I take when I teach, because people are happy with all kinds of outputs gotten through all kinds of methods and strategies, of which I all heartily support, because we're artists, and I support that more, and I support a sort of an artsy fartsy hippie view of prompting. But there are other perspectives that say, look, that's nice, but that's just not what makes a good prompt. What makes a good prompt is the diffusion part. Does it operate well with diffusion, regardless of whether your output? So you can have a fabulous prompt that gets you a picture you hate, and the prompt is still good. But I hate the picture. Doesn't matter. Still a good prompt, right? So you can go back and forth, and people have on whether on what makes a, quote, good prompt. But for the purposes of my classes, what makes a good prompt is, did you get, as a human being, did you get what you want out of it? And typically then I can say, you know what, it's unlikely you're going to get what you want out of it if you have something specific in mind, unless you follow these guidelines. Hence this slide right here. So the idea is address each, this is back to, if it's not controlled with the prompt, Midjourney makes it up. So we had decided that this is still going to be true in V8, based on what we've learned in office hours and what we've extrapolated from each subsequent edition of Midjourney. I'm just reading this. Some problems can't be solved with prompting. Learn when you need to use multiple steps involving editor, retexture, remix, and references. Now, David released the survey that says, what if you could solve it with prompting? Do you remember the survey? I think it might still be up. That says, what if you could, do stuff by just telling Midjourney, no, put the hat on the guy, or remove the chair from the background. That I don't know if that's part of V8 or a separate project or what. I have no idea. But I don't think it's part of V8. I haven't heard that in office hours. It's after V8. Thanks. So I still think these 3 check marks are probably true. I think the big change might be figure out where Midjourney needs help. I think we're gonna as a community come up against, oh, it doesn't need help with this stuff anymore. It needs help here. And that's what we'll be documenting for our community FAQs and so on. So this advice says cover the subject, the background, and the style in your prompt, because those are the compositional elements of a picture. And if you leave one of these out, if you leave out the style, Midjourney will make it up. If you leave out the background, Midjourney will make it up, or do nothing. Subject, you know? Coming up, Bob-Ann. In fact, Bob-Ann, I am partnering with a company called Pseudowrite. Not Midjourney. Midjourney, I don't know if they know what Pseudowrite is, but Pseudowrite is like the Midjourney of fiction writing. It's an LLM system with lots of UI and helpfulness to help you. Sudo is a Unix command, a power user Unix command. There's a big learning curve with Pseudowrite, but they've agreed to come and talk to us about using Pseudowrite and Midjourney together and so on, which is kind of a fun idea.
Whoa. That sounds cool.
Yeah, and it's not scheduled yet. The guy's just sitting there in my DM, hasn't replied for days.
I saw a YouTube video of this where somebody was grabbing Wikipedia pages and throwing them in there, and it was basically saying, write me a a script for this that I can talk about this, and it was doing all that for them, making them like a YouTube script that it could actually create then videos for, and he was using this for that.
I think they're all technical people in this case, Collect, and he wanted to come today, but we got our pigeons crossed. No, Sudo is it's a Unix joke. They're a bunch of nerds, those guys. I love them. I really, really, really enjoy the savvy, the technical savvy in that group. I did originally. I mean, before I used Windows, because there wasn't Windows. Windows didn't exist when I started. So can I ask them about context window? Yes, you can, Collect. High five, Bob-Ann. Sorry, Flory. Next. Understand when Midjourney can do it for you. Okay. The prompt only needs to articulate only those details that are not covered by the archetype. Now, you see, let's go back to what Collect said. In Niji said, I didn't say anything about the background. I got a big old blank, empty background. So did that come from the archetype, Collect? Or was that just, you didn't tell me what the background is, I'm done?
I think Pseudowrite and Midjourney need to pair up, where maybe Pseudowrite writes the prompt and Midjourney generates the image along with the text that you create.
They tried.
Sort of like graphic novel type of.
Pseudowrite ended up using, I don't know what's built into Pseudowrite. They have something built in, and it's not Midjourney because Midjourney doesn't have an API. But they would prefer to use Midjourney if Midjourney does have an API. But until then, I think I don't know. It might be Nano Banana. Something. Because there's no API for Midjourney. A result of decisions made during training. Walk me through that, Collect. You think there was the fact that if you don't specify a background, the background is blank? That is something to do with training? You mean it got rewarded? That it's not penalized? I mean, like, okay, so let's talk about, okay, let me try this again. Let's talk about ranking for a second. So one of the things we're doing when we rank Now, they have different missions for every ranking party, section of the ranking party. And I had written up actually a generic how to rank sort of FAQ thing, and we had to take it down because it turns out that each segment of the rating party is sort of focused on a certain thing. So the generic instructions are possibly less helpful than the specific instructions that were given in the announcement. So what's interesting is that one of the things we do when we rank is set up that it's a pairwise comparison. So we're helping set up sort of penalties and rewards for Midjourney. So we're saying this is good, do more like that. This is not so good, do less like that. Or we're skewing Midjourney's decisions in directions in 128 orthogonal dimensions. Who knows how many? When we do these rankings, and so part of what Collect is saying might be that if we continuously select blank backgrounds like as rankers, we might accidentally set up a little preference, sort of like if nothing else, then use your own preferences, and your own preferences from ranking, among other things, is in other words, what's stylizes those preferences. You'll end up
call
with
it the
blank
community aesthetic.
the community aesthetic, the default style, yeah, is stylize. So let's see. May or may not, I don't specify background, says Flory, and some get none depending on how many images I create at once. I don't think it could be dependent on how many images you create at once. I don't see how technically that could be true. Collect says, I'm more of making the point that it could be either. I mean, model training, not what we are doing rating. In other words, how the architecture of the model is set up. Wow, I can't even begin to speculate for that one.
Flory's saying she's doing an R40. She's not saying what background she wants. It's of course they're going to change, right? If you don't specify background, you're not going to get the same quad every time, are you?
Oh no, yeah, of course not.
I think that's what she's saying, right? That's what I read.
Oh,
She said, depending on, she goes, I don't specify background and get some or more, depending on how many images I create. Because as I say, yeah, that makes sense. You're doing R40, you're going to get you're going to get backgrounds, no backgrounds, all sorts of, yeah, it's going to just keep making up as
I see.
reset the seed, won't it? It won't be.
Thank you. Sorry, Flory. I see what you're saying.
Right, exactly. Cool. There.
This is very good. Okay. So archetypes again. Boy, this is an interesting. I mean, I can't imagine that anything based in diffusion wouldn't. I mean, archetypes are the probabilistically determined outcomes of images based on the tokens. So I don't think this is going to be something that could possibly change.
Yeah, it'd be easy to say, David's already mentioned, we can say the cowboy on the horse is not wearing a hat. And,
no,
now it knows. I thought he said that.
Nope.
Oh,
well,
he said in.
I have hundreds of tests that say that you can't do that, but
okay, cool. But yeah, he said in V8 you could do that now. You don't have to put -- no anymore. It just knows not to put the hat in the room or whatever it is the situation.
The elephant. It is possible that if you say a room with no elephant, you'll get an empty room.
But the archetype still overrides. Oh, that's
yes.
rubbish, then, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's rubbish.
Well, that's again, that's not because of anything specific to V8. There's nothing I'm telling you here that is like secret V8 information. I'm telling you that archetypes are true of how diffusion models work. Now, what we also know is true about diffusion models, V8 aside, is that there's always this conditioning check where the system checks what it's building on the canvas against what you said in your prompt, almost like a checklist. Like, okay, so you said lumberjack. Let me check these pixels. Yeah, they go with lumberjack. Great. And you said cowboy, so I'm going to check that. Yes, and it goes check, 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 and that's how it's constantly bringing the image back in line with your prompt. So that means that, and if we have more attention, then we have more time for that, and we have a possibly better conditioning. In other words, it might do a better job saying, oh, you want a lumberjack holding a giant spoon, right? So if I say lumberjack in version 5, it will have a freaking axe, right? Because it doesn't have time to figure out spoons and to go through and, check the image it's making and turn all the metal that it's seeing, which could be axe or it could be spoon. And hold on, let me make sure that I gotta, that whole rigmarole of trying to make sure that the metal that it's drawing in the lumberjack's hand is either an axe or a spoon. In early versions, there was never enough time to make sure that happened quite properly. We'd run out of time. We didn't have the attention. We didn't have the number of steps needed, however you want to put that. And I imagine that if we're, as we've seen with every update of Midjourney, that gets a little bit better. We were incredibly floored by the adherence or conditioning of V7, because you could start saying, so and so was on the left and so is in the middle and so is on the right, and Midjourney would do it. Why? Because it could check left. It understands leftness, right? And it can keep checking those pixels to make sure that it obeys your prompt. So I think that's going to get better, which means that although archetypes will continue to exist, and as Colette said, this is an evergreen slide, at the same time, we might be able to do less work to depart from archetypes. Like, my God, have you ever tried to do like a 5-armed man, or a 3-legged horse, or a 3-eyed cat, or a cat with one eye? Does it a show of hands who remembers, 2 years ago when getting a 3-eyed cat was like a hot prompt puzzle? Yeah. It was really hard. But, as Midjourney becomes more efficient and effective, every release, we see it getting, the prompting becomes less contrived to get such a thing to happen. We don't have to say, like, a merged 2 Cyclops hybrid or something. No, I just made that up. But, we can start being more direct. Maybe one day we'll be able to type a 3-eyed cat and we just get it. And is that because the token 3-eyed is suddenly stronger in the training? That's not likely. It's more likely that with the efficiency improvements and the attention improvements, it has more time to fix it. Like, it always understood what 3-eyed is supposed to be, but it didn't ever have time to add the other eye. Right before, it was just like, oops, well, I'm done. That's it for the now. But maybe we'll do better at that. What?
So it's almost like a self-editing in itself, because it'll stick to the archetype, then make the changes. Is that what you mean?
Right. It can do both. Oh, thank you, Johnny. Example of a 3-eyed cat.
Yeah. So it's almost like an edit. It's almost like it can edit itself from
That's kind of what conditioning is. Conditioning
Yeah.
is, yeah. Himbo usually goes to GPT and asks for a definition of conditioning and pastes it at this time, but I think he left the call.
Oh.
He had some stuff to do. Oh, thanks, Johnny. Instructions-based editor could never put an eyeball in a nose?
What?
What are you saying, Collect? I don't know. He has a little nose creature with an eye nostril. As one does. on a Sunday? Okay. So how do I use archetypes? A woman sitting in a cafe on a rainy day. Let's see, negation words. And then, okay, so the reason why we talked about negation words in the middle of the woman sitting in a cafe on a rainy day is because we're trying to describe a woman who has not sitting at a cafe, sitting at a table at a cafe, and she has not received her coffee yet. So we can't actually say has not received her coffee yet. And it doesn't make any sense to me because of the way diffusion works. I don't see, without an LLM in play, sitting between us and Midjourney, I don't see how that kind of prompting would ever work. And I might be revealing just laughable amounts of ignorance throughout this event, but I can't be too attached to my dignity when I teach this stuff. I don't see how that could work. I can understand if the word no might sometimes play, because the same way left, right, middle, center, right, all those words produce in the latent space an idea of leftness and rightness and upness and downness and middleness, right? Though you can position things with those words. And it's not because Midjourney understands what left means. It just knows that whenever the word left appears, it's correlated to this kind of pixel pattern arrangement, right? So similarly, no could be the same thing as left, right, up, down. It could be correlated to the absence of something. I'm willing to believe that, but I don't see how. I'm yet to figure out how it could fight archetypes, because that's a conflict. Because Midjourney would have to say, like, okay, a cowboy. What makes a cowboy a cowboy? This red handkerchief, this kind of hair, this expression on his face, this hat, this vest, this cow, this horse, whatever. So these are the things that make cowboy pass, green light. This is a cowboy, check. If I say a cowboy with no hat, I'm basically telling Midjourney, I want you to make sure it's a cowboy, and I want you to make sure there's no hat. And it cannot do that. It's a contradiction in terms. So it's either going to have like some sort of weird hat-like chaos blob, or it's going to maybe have him holding the hat, because it'll arrive at the idea that the hat's not on the head. Maybe, I don't know. I don't see temporal Collect says temporal dimensions do not have visual representation and visual correlation yet. So I don't see how we can fight archetypes with negations. A unicorn with no horn can't win because unicorns have horns. A birthday cake with no candles? Birthday cakes, by the fact that they're a birthday cake, is like 80% the fact that it has candles on it. Otherwise, it's just a cake. But when you say it, when you look at the phrase, I'm going to put it in your chat here: birthday cake with no candles. You see how you're going to get imagine drawing circles around the groups of tokens. You can draw a circle around birthday cake with no candles. You can draw a circle around birthday cake with no. You can draw a circle around cake with no candles. You can draw a circle around with no candles. You can draw a circle around no candles, right? And then you can go the other way. And many of those pairings involve a cake with no candles. Now, if I said I don't know. If I said no candles on a birthday cake, would that make it harder? I don't know. But the fact is there's a chance that that just like a room without a room with no elephant was the example from Office Hours.
Mm.
I can see that you might get somewhere with this one because birthday cake is separated from no candles by the word with, and cake with no candles is in there, much less the word birthday.
Ironically, birthday cake, when you look at them, and when I used to set up hundreds of thousands of stock photos that I used to sell and stuff, and 40% of birthday cakes don't have candles on them when
Well,
you
there
have
you
them in those
go.
pictures.
Then you have a fighting chance. Because the birthday cake archetype may not include the candles after all.
Yeah, when you look at decorated cakes, all these different shows and stuff like that, there's no candles on them. It's just the decorations and stuff. And
Collectus is jumping off of what I said earlier about how maybe no can function as well as left or right or up or down.
Yeah.
Insofar as it has some sort of compositional rule with it. That if you say no, blah, 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 that's correlated with the absence of blah, blah, blah somehow. Anyway, it'd be interesting to play with.
Yeah. When you're talking about the edits, how things can be edited in its own way, like it looks at the end result, or it looks as it's making it and goes, okay, now I need to make that change, because there's something that's in the prompt. Isn't it possible that, like an add-on to Midjourney, where it's the results there before we get to see it, there's another algorithm goes in there and edits that situation? Maybe not even using a diffusion model, using an aggressive. The other models, what they're called? I've forgotten the name.
Progressive.
The other. Sorry, what are they called?
Isn't it progressive? No?
Is it progressive? What, the ChatGPT and all that?
Yeah.
They're progressive models. Yeah. So I mean, isn't
Did I get that?
Because with the speed the things are happening now, isn't it possible just to have that little like modular add-on where it can correct things for us? Because the diffusion is not going to do it against the archetype, is it? So maybe the no situation, those extras need to be stepped in and changed that way, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people say that as soon as we have the compute and people are willing to pay for it, we can start chaining, making whole neural nets of the things that we have that are made of neural nets that are made of neural nets that are made of neural nets. So and that if we can get enough of those aggregated and working together, then what isn't possible? That's why some people get really excited about AGI and the singularity and because they can sort of extrapolate in their head. Well, if any individual system by itself without any help can perform this task, then what if I had 1 million of those systems coordinated working together? Couldn't I do something even more sophisticated? That sort of thing.
Yeah. It just seems surreal that we can never get around a problem that we want a cowboy without a hat, and diffusion seems to have that flaw where it's always going to archetype. And
well, until it starts getting a really good handle on what without a means, they could fix that in training, I think. I mean, if you're specifically thinking about negation language, like without, but, yet, no, does not, will not, has not, and except, like without a hat, you would have to have tons of things that are properly tagged without. You'd have to have, you'd have to have tons of pictures of people without hats where it's properly tagged without a hat, and not no hat or isn't wearing a hat or doesn't have his hat today. Because as soon as you have, or for left his hat at home, like any of those other phrases totally ruins it.
That's a big tag list, isn't it?
It doesn't learn the word without unless so you'd have to intentionally seed the data. And maybe they did that with no. Maybe that's why they're excited to say, oh, no might work, because we intentionally gave it tons of examples of no. And now when you hit the word no, it has, just like it hit when we hit the word left or right or up or down, it learned a thing. Now when it hit the word no, it's like, I know that means leave it out. But I don't think we've done it for all of the English language, like all the different ways of saying it.
Yeah.
But what an LLM does, what ChatGPT does, or Nano Banana or something, I'm sure, is you say a cowboy without a hat. I don't know what their engine really understands, but that LLM is saying, oh, I know what without means, and I know what the rules are for the diffusion engine, and I'll translate it for you. It's like they have a Clarinet's prompt helper sitting between you and the...
And they do, I'm sure. But not yours.
No, yeah, no, not mine. But yeah, no, I work for Midjourney. And not even Midjourney's used.
Yeah.
Jeez, God. Okay. So to get around the negation, you see, I've had to write this whole other way of putting the prompt. I can't just say woman doesn't have coffee. I had to describe the table as empty.
Right.
And that's because I'm breaking an archetype. I might be able to say, a woman at a bus stop with no coffee, because there are plenty of women at bus stops with no coffee, and Midjourney's not going to be like, oh, I should have coffee here. But in this, I was saying it's a cafe. You know what happens at a cafe? Every frickin' person has coffee. So as soon as I used the word cafe, Midjourney was like, oh, coffee at the table. So I had to contrive, find this crazy way of getting out of using the word cafe to steer clear of the archetype. We call it dodging the archetype. And I still think we'll have to do some amount of that in V8. I can't see why I can't. And without a big change in the training, which we know from office hours that there was no big change in the training. I don't see how that could be different.
You mean the training data?
Yes, the base training, the base training. Yeah. Orti, says Ari. God, thank God Ari's here. Makes very important. You know what that reminds me of, Ari? Have you ever seen Monty Python? Life of Brian, where they're all sitting around and talking about, and there's this person is at the end that always says, or woman, every time somebody says man.
Yes.
Or woman. Yes, or woman.
It's a skit where this guy says, I want to be a woman now. I want to be a Loretta. So he wants to be a Loretta. And then John Cleese is trying to talk him out of it.
That's exactly right.
That was funny.
Oh, Monty Python. I can't get enough of them. Okay, so chaotic tokens. Use words that Midjourney understands. Well, I don't know whether this was ever true, guys. I think what's happening in V7, I mean, yeah, I taught it like this, but secretly what might be happening is Midjourney knows words the same all the time. It knows, I mean, if they're in the base training, then Midjourney quote unquote knows that word, red, dog, up, down, right? But it doesn't necessarily have time to implement every word you've put in the prompt. And so when we say use words that Midjourney understands, what we're really saying is use words that are powerful enough that Midjourney has a fighting chance to get them onto the canvas before it runs out of time. So in that case, Midjourney will appear, as David said, to understand more words. So when we look at these words, textures, colors, shapes, sizes, like right now we're saying these words do a lot. And we say these words don't. Temporal words like first, second, next, then, after, before. Words of emphasis and de-emphasis. We say don't use them. We chase people away from these words that you see on the slide with X's next to them. And the reason why we do that is because they use up cycles, so to speak. And it means the rest of your prompt might be missed because we're so short on attention. But if V8 proposes to increase that attention, then if you say, I've told you this before, if you say, it's possible that she believed in the hypothetical meaning of the bench before she sat upon it. Like, in version 7, we'd be like, dude, the chances of you getting her sitting on the bench are so low if you type that way. But maybe in V8, it'll be like, it just has time to go through your words and go, this doesn't help me, doesn't help me, doesn't help me. Oh, bench, good, sitting, I can do that. Right. So it might be less punishing. But I still don't understand, like, smells and sounds. I still don't think that's gonna, how could that work? The smell of bread fills the marketplace. What does that look like?
Wafts. Waft lines. Coming from a bakery door or window.
I mean, I'm super curious what something like V8 will do with. I mean, we know from the very first principle we talked about that if you don't specify, Midjourney makes it up. So what will Midjourney make up if we do non-visual things? If I say, the faint aroma of lavender, will Midjourney be smart enough to draw some lavender in my field? I think version 7 was. What about stuff like all the dogs wear green hats? 3 of the dogs wear green hats. Everyone faces to the left. Will it understand everyone all? I think those might be, they have a fighting chance because they have visual correlation, but they might have been something that Midjourney didn't have time to, I don't know. Beauty products, says Damage Case, if you use the word lavender, yeah. Okay. So these are the 3 things we teach people in the Quick Start, which was formerly prompting for beginners. If it's not controlled with the prompt, Midjourney makes it up. If the prompt exceeds the time allotted to the job, Midjourney becomes incoherent, blends in, or drops details. The prompt contains chaotic tokens, you lose control of the canvas. So we'll see. I mean, you can see by the title that I started this morning, to go through and make the changes I needed to make for V8. And talking through it with you is part of this exercise. And I'm hard pressed to see anything in these general principles that will change, but I am not at all surprised I will not at all be surprised to find if there are changes in the responsiveness to the prompts and the new constraints, like, oh, you can only really do 4 or 5 subjects. Well, I don't know, if we're that much more efficient, how does that change? Tell me what you mean by syntax. What separational tokens to use and when? Like, can you unmute and give me just a quick example? Such as commas and periods. Oh, yeah, I agree. Text it seems like that's being touched. Commas and periods, like the example of the panda eats shoots and leaves. I talked about that earlier. Before I was saying, like, there's something to do with the pattern matching where shoots, when it appears like this, you see the comma space shoots comma seems to be correlated with guns. And Midjourney gets to that point and starts doing a gun and it stays. Will V8 have I mean, is that because Midjourney understands that shoots as in a positive separated by commas is a different concept than without? Or is it because it ran out of time to delete the gun? How would I, if it's not sufficient to put commas, how do I get my Panda? How do I put a rifle in the hands of my Panda? That's the important question. I would have to actually say, you know, a Panda holds a rifle. I couldn't just say a Panda eats, shoots, and leaves. But that takes us right back to item 1, which is put it in the prompt if you want it. Well, collect, yes and no. A lot of people would like Midjourney to truly understand punctuation. And so commas around shoots should give the Panda a gun. And a lot of people wish that punctuation wouldn't matter so much because no one remembers how to punctuate properly necessarily. No one wants to have to write like they learned in school, just a prompt. Which is more desirable to you? I want punctuation, but I'm in the minority. Is anyone else here who wants punctuation?
Yeah, definitely. Sort of more organized, isn't it? It's easier.
Yes.
Well, it's part of it's because collect is like it's dangerous to think that way because remember this is diffusion. It's not really punctuation. It's just little tokens and noise and stuff, and that's exactly right. And the part of our craving to be able to speak more naturally and to be understood more naturally by Midjourney is sort of that's what's driving the desire for punctuation to be functional. Right now, punctuation is accidentally functional when it works as part of the correlation or as part of the sort of benign noise that helps things get helps Midjourney keep the tokens maintain the relationship between the tokens and get the picture right. Okay, you guys, we are well and truly out of time, but this has we are.
Oh.
This has been Midjourney Studio Live, formerly Promptcraft Live. That's right. Collect points out punctuation does not serve the purpose of punctuation when inside a prompt. Not exactly. I do discuss it out loud, even though it's not on the slide. Thank you, Flory. If you guys have never been to this event, or even if you have, we do have a feedback form that the bosses use to sort of establish how they should invest in events and what's needed and so on. So please take a moment to click on that and enter your thoughts. Oh, I'm so happy to have met you, Flory. Fantastic. We have a calendar that I am happy to give you if you are interested in more events from Midjourney. Please go ahead and subscribe there if you want to get reminders or whatever. Otherwise, just keep an eye on our pop-up. That's fine. Here on the Midjourney server. We do have one more event today, which is the Midjourney music video jam. Does anyone, Wendy, do you go to that? Does anyone here?
Yeah, I try to. It's late for the British. It's really late at night. But,
what's the current project?
We go. There isn't, and we usually go unless kink is already discussed with another person. You go in there with a song. Either people will choose a song or make a song, and or people have got a song already created by Suno. We then create images. We listen to the song and we create images to it, and we make a mood board out of that. And then from that mood board, we all use the same mood board, and then try to make bits for that video. And she packages it all together. And the next week we get to see the video.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's it in a nutshell.
Thank you for the nutshell. I appreciate it. So, Flory, I hope you can run see that. And thanks everyone.
Thank you.
We are adjourned. If you have any other questions about Promptcraft, you can always ask in text in our Promptcraft room here on the server. Thanks everyone. Have a good afternoon. Oh yeah.
Thank you. I have a very quick one, if I may.
Please.
When is version 8 rolling out?
So does anyone else have any questions?
Okay, is it gonna be? Is it gonna be like a step up, forward from 7, or is it gonna be something completely different?
A step forward.
Yeah. Okay. You can rank V8 images right now in the ranking, and you'll get to see some of your own eyes.
To be honest, I wasn't really happy with the images presented in general.
What day did you look?
Like was yesterday or the day before?
Every day the images are changing.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about those either yesterday or the day before yesterday, and I was like, if this is version 8, that's disaster.
But the day before yesterday was text. Today it's the higher stylized, not really high, just a basic stylized today, and then at the weekend we'll be seeing a higher stylized version to see how they're going. So it is literally different. So from a day to 2 days ago, we've got different worlds. So have a look today.
Can we still use the previous versions as we can now?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. There's no reason to move to version 8. And in fact, version 8 won't even be made default for months. Really? You will have to intentionally ask Midjourney for version 8 until they get it all sorted out. And then finally it will become the default.
Yeah.
Very well. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks, Ari.
Tweaking time. Thank you, Clarinet.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
You done? Okay.
Love you. Bye.
I'll see you guys later.